Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting, very new little knife, the Benchmade Bugout. This is an interesting little mid-year release for Benchmade. There was very little warning, and then suddenly, bam, Bugout. But hey, whatever, I'll check it out. Let's first off do a size comparison. Right here, Spyderco Delica. And so you can see here that in terms of blade length, we're right around the same area. Ontario rat number 2, and rat number 1. Beautiful, and I think that'll do it for size comparison. Then finally, a note on the name. I've had a couple of people who've seen it on Instagram ask, Nick, what's Bugout even mean? Well, if you in the preparedness community, there is the idea of a bug-out bag or bugging out, which means there has been a disaster in the area where I live or am. I am going to go someplace else. A bug-out bag should contain everything that you need to be able to go someplace else and exist and survive there for a little while there. So I think they're targeting that community here, although that's kind of this is a weird knife in that domain. So either way, that's what the name means. So there you go. Although I'd love to see a whole line of these. The bug out, the bug across, bug under, bug plus preposition lineup. Could be great. Benchmade can use that idea. Anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of your Benchmade Bugout here. Okay, so on the good side, first off, this has a very nice lanyard hole. That's a weird thing to say at some level, but in this case, the lanyard hole is nicely designed. It fits in nicely with the ergonomics. It's not stealing space from anything or moving the clip to a place it shouldn't be. This is about as good as a lanyard hole on a production sort of knife gets, and it shows signs of being something they thought about rather than, we'll just drill a hole. So that's kind of cool. Next thing, the clip on this guy is actually pretty great. It's a very small clip. I think it's smaller than anything else I've seen on a Benchmade, but the thing is, there are mounts on either side, and coupled with the axis lock, makes this knife completely ambidextrous, and because this is a relatively lightweight and long knife, this keeps it very securely in the pocket. I have no real concerns about this clip, and in fact, I found it very nice to use. And I'll also highlight the height of it, which allows this to actually be a deep carry clip. Very often, a shallow deep carry clip with screws on the inside can just get caught up on your pants, but no, this carries deeply, and so that's nice. Big fan of that. Next thing, this has anodized thumb stud. See here, this nice little blue here, which matches, and then the standoffs are anodized blue as well. And that's just nice. It's a little touch, but it is a nice little touch, 100%. Next thing, ergonomically speaking, this knife is actually pretty solid. You've got a nice contouring here. Because it is this kind of plastic, they have the ability to very nicely and easily do the contouring. It's got nice little grip handles here, which keep it well in your hand here. And just overall, even the clip seems to fit my hand pretty well. So I'm pretty impressed and happy with the ergonomics on this knife here. Next thing, I gotta be honest with you, I like the design of this aesthetically speaking. It's not like an oh my god showy sort of design. It's not hyper designed or anything like that, but every part of it is just like that's pleasing to the eye. That's well done. The overall contour matching across the top here. Whoever did this design was clearly thinking and did a good job of it, so that's good. Then finally, the blade on this guy. I freaking love this blade for a couple of reasons. The steel on it is S30V, which is absolutely a good steel. It's good to go, no problem there. It's got this very nice swedge on it, which is nice, this little back portion here, and gives it a little bit more pokey sort of tip on there. I love the fact that it's running very thin stock. Compare the thickness of it. It is a little bit thinner, I believe, than your Spyderco Delica, which is a very nice thing. It's very slicey. It's got a full sharpening choil. This is just a great little blade for utility cutting. Carrying this is like, wow, this is a good cutting tool. And I like that very, very much. And so, to me, that's the good of your Bugout here, is that it's got a just really great blade on it. It's got a beautiful design to it. The ergonomics on this knife are very, very solid. With the anodized studs and standoffs are a nice touch. It is completely ambidextrous with the lock bar, with the axis lock, that is, and the clip being able to be switched. The clip itself is pretty great. It's well put in there. And then finally, the lanyard hole on this guy is pretty nice. Let's talk about what's great about this knife. To me, what is absolutely great about this knife is the fact that it is so lightweight and thin and easy to carry. The weight on this guy is really astoundingly light. I handed this to fiance, she was like, oh my god, that's light. And it is. I mean, we're coming in at 1.86 ounces. And to compare that to some other well-known knives in this kind of smaller size category, Spyderco Delica comes in at 2.3 ounces. The Benchmade 940 This is the 940-2 in G10, comes in at 2.6 ounces. The Boca Patriot, which is another all-plastic, well, except for the blade knife, comes in at 2.37. Spyderco Native 5 is around here someplace. Come here, Native 5. Way too many knives on my freaking table right now. Yeah, here it is. 2.49, and even the Benchmade Mini Grip. This is the G10 version, which has the full line, comes in at 2.8. I mean, this is super freaking lightweight. 1.8 ounces is crazy light, and that's a beautiful freaking thing. And coupled with the fact that this knife is also very, very thin. Again, my Delica for comparison here. This is slightly thinner than the Spyderco Delica, which is already a very thin knife. It is thinner substantially than your Benchmade Mini Grip, which is, again, not a super beefy sort of knife. This is just an incredible knife to carry, and because it's thin, there's nothing on the side of the pocket here, no flipper tabs or anything, this just carries like a dream. And so, for me, what is absolutely great about this knife is that it is so damn light and just great in the pocket as a result. Let's talk about what's bad. So look, on the bad side, first is something that I don't actually think is bad objectively, but may catch some people off guard, and that is how minimal the construction of this knife is. In terms of metal, you've got the blade, you've got the little screws here, you've got the clip, and then you've got a little bit of liner. That liner comes down to here and back over to there. That's it. The rest of the knife is just this waffle kind of polymer. And that leads to some impressive flexibility. I mean, watch this. I'm just going to pinch with my hands. Oh, touching the liners together. Compare that to, for instance, your Benchmade 940-2 out of G10. You can't do that. Or a lot of other plastic knives, you can maybe move it a little bit, but this knife really bends and flexes and whatnot. I mean, you can really deform these handles in a substantial way. Now, practically speaking, I think this knife is absolutely fine for normal use, and I'm not saying this because I want you to think, like, oh my god, it's super fragile. No! The fact of the matter is, I have been trying to abuse this knife and make it fail, and I have been completely unable to do so. This flexibility means that it is going to be a little bit stronger than I think I anticipated. But the thing is, it is putting lightweight above, oh my god, durability. If you're planning to hammer a knife into a tree trunk and use it as a stair step on its side, then maybe this is going to fail, although that's stupid, that's abusive. But there are situations where, theoretically speaking, this knife is going to be less strong than a full titanium frame lock, or even a knife that's got full steel liners. That's going to be a difference, but that's what you're getting for the lightweight. And if you're using the right tool for the job, it's absolutely zero problem. So, like I said, I don't actually think that this flexibility and the fact that it's made out of plastic is a bad thing, so much as just a thing you're going to need to keep in mind. That said, there are two other bad things here. The first of which is that on these plastic scale insides here, they do need to do a little bit of chamfering, because right now, the inside of these plastic scales is a little bit sharp. I'm sure that this is probably like injection molded or something. Actually, I don't quite know enough to say, oh yeah, there's little marks for it. But anyways, I'd like to see a little bit more, just hit that with like a Scotch-Brite wheel or something, just to make that a little bit less sharp. You can do that at home, but it is a little bit on the unfortunate side. And then finally on the bad side, the price on this guy is not really feeling that value-friendly. The price on this knife is $115, and that is, you know, the same amount of money as you might pay for like a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, which is a very large knife composed of S30V, same steel, full steel liners, compression lock, G10. I mean, this is a whole lot of knife, and this is the same amount of money. And it's just two chunks of plastic, a square inch or two of metal, and a thin little blade here. I mean, as always is the case, it seems, the butterfly on this knife is very, very expensive. And so it is, at least to my mind, absolutely not a great value. Because you're paying a lot of money for not a whole lot of knife there. But, so those are the bad to me, is that the price on this guy doesn't represent a great value, and it needs some chamfering on the inside of the scale. And then you want to keep in mind the fact that the construction is minimal, and that the knife does have a little flex to it. And so it's not going to be well suited for some tasks, even though it's very well suited for, I think, pretty much every task that most people have on a regular basis. Let's talk about the ugly. So on the ugly front, unfortunately, this knife displayed some tolerance issues. What I mean by that is, as you saw in the disassembly, when you put it together with the washers on this orientation, the knife was having trouble with centering, the action was bad. But then if you swap the washers around, suddenly everything worked beautifully. What this probably means is that those washers were not the same, that they were, one or more of them was out of tolerance, and as a result, the knife really only went together in one way. And that's just not great, and it means that things are not quite up to the spec, because for 99% of knives in the world, it doesn't matter which washer is on which side. They should be identical parts, but if they're not here, that's concerning. And unfortunately, this leads me to renew my generalized Benchmade ugly, which is that Benchmade is still having some issues with quality control and tolerances. And so my general recommendations, if you're going to buy a Benchmade, is that you do it from a brick and mortar dealership, where you can go in there and you can check for side to side, vertical up and down play, and make sure it's centered, or that you order from an online retailer who's willing to check that first, because they're still not quite sending knives out the door that are as perfect as they need to be if they're selling with higher price tags. So those are the ugly things, is that this knife had those weird washer issue, and that's probably indicative that Benchmade, you still need to be careful with the quality control, because you're still going to be doing that yourself. So let's jump into your final conclusion here. Final conclusion, this is a knife that makes great sense in one very particular condition, and that is when every ounce matters. Because this is, ounce for ounce, one of the very best knives out there, because you're getting a great blade, and this is really a great blade. I love this blade so damn much, but you're getting it in a very, very thin package with good utility, and the weight of this is what most knives weigh on the lock scale alone. I mean, and so at that level, I love this knife. It is absolutely a specialist, and I appreciate their willingness to make a knife that is targeting lightweight over all else. Because in a world that is awash with awkward generalists or, crazy overbuilt thick titanium frame locks, sometimes it's nice to see something that is really specializing, and that is specializing very well. Unfortunately, though, you do pay a little bit of a price, both figuratively in that this knife sacrifices some of the durability and stiffness that you might want to see in something as an all-arounder, and you're paying a price literally, because the $115 price tag puts this in seriously competitive categories. I mean, there is strong competitions at and below that price point. And so the big question here is, what do you want? That's the question. If you just want a knife that is kind of an all-arounder, a $100 plus price tag will buy you a bunch of great knives. I mean, you can do a Spyderco PM2 for around the same price, which is just incredible and very, very beefy. The Sage 5, the ZDP Delica. You can get a steel wheel cut jack, an M390 for not too much more, a ZT450. And there are a lot of knives out there that perform just as well, but just a little bit heavier for half the price. Your Spyderco Delica, your cut jacks, your Rat series. I mean, $115 is a non-trivial amount of money. But the thing is, fundamentally, if you want the lightweight, if you are looking for the lightest knife possible that still is a very, very good knife, then this is a really, really strong contender, because you have an incredible blade in a body that is just absolutely freaking featherweight. So if you're willing to pay a price, both literally and figuratively, for it, then honestly, this is a really nice little knife. And for that lightweight task, well, you might consider bugging out with this little guy. So there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and that you have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.